Now let's go back to you a little bit. So you've obviously, so for a long time, I know you were at Great Group Call, and obviously, I was following what you were doing from there. So quite recently, you've been creating some apps as well, and doing some stuff, your own stuff. So what's that all about?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm somebody that loves doing things. I've always done kind of side projects. The Omega Pegasus website I've done for almost 10 years now, although not branded as that, and the kind of data projects and things like that. And on the side, I've always kind of done little side projects for schools and more recently, a couple of vendors, little consultancy bits and pieces to kind of just help them along with the skills and knowledge that I've got. So kind of always wanted to be doing extra things outside of my day job. So at the moment, I've got two more major kind of projects running on the side at the moment. One is very much out of our sector. It's called Elite Mind Business Academy, or EMBA, and at its core, this is an app for mental health consultants, therapists, and coaches. I at the start of this year, I was introduced and started talking to a fantastic lady called Evelina, and she is a real kind of force of nature when she comes. She's a consultant and a therapist, and does a lot of work with neuroscience and whatnot. But at her heart, she's a coach for individuals and also businesses to help them understand a lot more about kind of mental health and whatnot. Now, mental health for me is very, very close to my own heart. I've suffered, mental health. I've suffered depression for on and off a number of years now, almost 10 years now. And so mental health is really important to me, and promoting and doing a lot with that. I've done some stuff on my own website as well to kind of help promote and talk a lot about mental health and mental well-being at work as well. Because in the social world, mental health is no longer a taboo. I mean, dare I say, it's almost a trendy thing to be talking about now. But in the workplace in particular, it is still not talked about so much. There's always a fear that actually, if I talk about it, will I get that promotion? Will I get that job? Will people think differently of me, etc., etc. So, and that's got to change. Anyway, so this started a huge conversation with Evelina, and we got talking, and we talked more. And long story short, we've started building an app to help coaches, now predominantly new coaches, people that have earned their qualifications, want to go and help and be therapists and listen to people, but they don't know how to run their business. They're not business people, they're therapists. And so this app is a one-stop shop to enable them to run their business, get the business off the ground, take payments, book sessions, write their session notes confidentially, interact with their individual clients, and it all be managed in kind of one interface. Alongside that, we are also building a community for not only for clients, but their coaches as well, because one of the things with this is coaches coaching individuals like that, typically they are independent. So running a business, as you know, running a business by yourself or a small team is a very lonely place. And as well, what are they doing all day, every day? Listening to people's problems. So where do they go and let us in? Where do they get help, advice, and guidance, not only on running their business, but on how their own feeling as well? And so the Ember community is being built to support all of that as well. Amazing. So they've got one product that, so for any new coach that comes along, they have the support, they have guidance from people like Evelina on setting your business up, additional kind of buying in services to kind of help get your website set up, your logo, doing things in terms of your continual development and training and things like that, and technology to wrap it all together as well.
Amazing. That's great.
Another one, we've been building an app to help support lone and vulnerable workers. So where this actually started out, quite a few years ago, and I was talking to a contact of mine, very much looking at the social care sector, social workers, where they were going into places that were potentially quite dangerous, going into places they didn't know, meeting people they didn't know too much about, or that they knew were dangerous and whatnot, and having a way to discreetly call for help. Now, And so what through many different incarnations, what we've come up with is the app called Safer Places, which is it's very close to going into the app stores, and we're about to kind of put it into pilot with a number of organizations. So the purpose of this is it is an app that allows you to kind of tap on an alert, and instantly the recipients of that alert, which are all completely customizable, so you can customize the alerts, the colors, the logos, what you send, what you receive, who receives them, who can send them, absolutely everything about it as an organization. That alert goes out and it goes to an individual or group of people to say, basically, I need help, or whatever alert you want it to be. It could be really important, or it could just be, I'm checking in, I'm all okay.
Yep.
It's using mobile devices that everybody has. You're not having to buy new devices, and it's importantly, it's in an enclosed and private environment. So only your organization can receive the alerts, send the alerts. You can even optionally kind of send your GPS location along with those alerts to know exactly where you are, respond to them, to let your colleague know you're on your way to help them. But importantly, you haven't got to share your number with everybody. You haven't got to create WhatsApp groups, things like that. It can be tapped in an instant. The notification is instant, and nobody outside of your organization, nobody that you don't allow to join, can join and see any of those alerts or any of that data. It is all incredibly tight and secure and very, very easy and simple to do. And so these lone and vulnerable workers are social workers, teachers in the classroom. You need to call for first aid help. What do I do? Do I send a note with the kid down and hope it gets to the office at the end of the corridor? No, actually I can tap that, and there's a desktop version, there's an app version that anybody can just have open and get those alerts instantly. Telecoms engineers, construction workers, what they call estate agents. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who works in a zoo, and of all places she went, this would be perfect. And I turned around to her and I said, oh, what, in case the lions escape? And she went, yeah.
That was in my head as well.
Yeah, well, she said, is lions escaping, or is it actually, do you know what, you need a vet to the elephant enclosure, and so actually you need a very specific vet. Maybe you need the big animal vet rather than small animal vet, something like that. And she said that's exactly the sort of thing that's needed.
That's amazing.
And so we've just been working on that as a kind of a side project as well, and hopefully that's going to go into the stores in the next couple of weeks as well.
I think that's amazing. Absolutely keeping all people, especially those like say health and social services sort of professionals. I think that's amazing. Absolutely. They go into very, at times very very, very sort of vulnerable situations. Even nurses in hospitals and things like that. Again, sometimes it's a very vulnerable place to be. With drunken people potentially or anything else. So
it is, and it's not always the kind of call for help. There are great scenarios to be sort of saying, I'm going into here, or I've just come out and I'm okay. Don't worry about me. So it's not a case of only call when you need some help. It's actually a kind of a confirmation that I'm good and okay as well. That's a very, very important part of that as well. I was talking to a local authority back in the early part of the year to see actually there was potential interest to see if they could use this for COVID. So this was when local authorities needed to get in touch with all of the people that were on the elderly people that were on the government list. Came out around April, May, June sort of time, and we couldn't make it. We just couldn't get it ready in time for that. But they were genuinely interested to see actually if that could be used for that situation as well. So literally, it is for any time. And importantly, there are solutions out there that do something similar, but they either use bulky and expensive hardware. So you'll have seen the things, particularly for like elderly people in their homes, or they ever pull the big chain for Dougie, or they've got a necklace or something like that. They're very expensive and with the subscription, this is very, very cheap. This our particular model. Or it is it's the sort of thing where you pay for kind of a manned 24/7 help desk solution, like a call center. Again, we're not into all of that. What we are is, this is a nice, easy solution, and it is purely controlled by your organization. Nobody else outside of your organization gets any contact, any calls, any text messages, anything like that. It's purely for you and your colleagues to basically self-organize. And so, it's for anybody that is in that situation whereby typically they're alone, or anywhere that, telecoms engineers on the side of the road, rather than having to phone, wait on they send a message and everybody in that group instantly gets a notification whether they want to or not, and away they go.
No, I think it's good. Great piece of tech. Wow, this leads on to that, because you basically get involved in lots of different things. It sounds like your brain doesn't ever stop, I'm guessing. So never. So
Never.
ultimately, never. So what do you perceive as the challenge you want to do next? What's the big thing? What would excite you next, I guess, apart from these projects you're already on? So these apps.
Yeah.
So what else?
Well, I've got two real sort of professional passions at the moment. One is product management. I've learned a lot particularly this year. I've learned a huge amount in my last job about doing. I've taken kind of the next step up in my understanding of it, and I really want to kind of do a little bit of mentoring with more junior product managers. People who are either new to the role, younger, less experienced, and things like that. I'd love to kind of mentor them a little bit. So anything, I'm sort of actively, still, involved in product management. Whether it be within Edtech but certainly with the software environment, and very much looking to, as I say, help and mentor other people. But my other big passion is mental health as well, and I'm increasingly getting involved in more conversations around that. A lot on LinkedIn and places like that. We connecting with people that are just doing some fantastic things, and all voluntary as well. Just building communities, building facilities to give people help and advice. I've been through so much myself over 10 years, some very, very low points that I've talked about often as well. And I want to use that. I think that is about me. I've learned a lot and I've done a lot in my career. What I want to be able to do is give that back to people, is to if I by telling my story or giving my advice, whether it be mental health, product management, whatever, and it helps other people either not go through, make some of the mistakes that I've made, or gone through some of the things, or do you know what, if they are going through it, it just helps them to know they're not alone in these sorts of things.
Yep.
That's what's most important to me, is just to be there and talk about what I've got. I don't mind, as you can tell, I don't mind talking. I talk about anything and everything. I recall a story 2 or 3 years ago when I was at Group Call, and I'm sure the guys, I won't name them, but I'm sure the guys won't tell me talking about it. But we just got onto the subject in the office one day, talking about kind of mental health, and I was talking about what I'd been through, and quite weirdly, I kind of picked up, and I noticed I came back into the room almost, and we were almost in kind of this horseshoe shape where I was at the front, almost giving a lecture on what I felt and what I'd gone through and how I got through it, and the peaks and troughs, and it inspired these other individuals to talk about what had affected them, what they were going through, what their parents had gone through, what their friends had gone through as well, which they'd never previously felt kind of comfortable in talking about. And that's really inspired me to do a lot more, to talk a lot more. I'm trying to put myself through a mental health first aid course, so that actually I can, wherever I work, I can support individuals within the workplace, as I have done just off my own back previously. And so for me, what I can give back to others, whether it be through consulting, whether it be through talking, whether it be through setting up groups, through setting up kind of webinars and things like that, which I've done, that's what I enjoy doing. I love giving just a lot of myself and a lot of my time to different projects and seeing what comes out of them.
That's amazing, and quite inspiring as well. I think mental health, and especially men's mental health, I think is something which I know. I don't really talk about it much, and I know that people don't talk about it much. Because normally about it depends when you've been born and the sort of generation you're in. But I think it's definitely something that people should be talking about more, for sure. And I think you willing to share your story and your background and stuff is a good thing, and it's, like I say, it's quite an inspiring thing to do, and so you should be really proud of that, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. My hands are up.
It's difficult though, because it's not easy to share. No one ever should feel the need that they have to share. I think one of the I think if anybody is doesn't feel capable of sharing, there are different avenues that they can go down to sharing. They don't have to talk to somebody. They don't have to do a webinar about it. I find something that's very, very therapeutic for me, and I know others have found this very well. It's writing it down. You don't have to share it with anybody, but writing it down, talking about it in words, because it distances yourself a little bit from, you know, your experiences and your emotions. And if not, then read about what other people have gone through as well, because me personally, and I know a lot of people feel this as well, it's a very lonely place to feel that way. And I think if you can see that other people maybe have gone through similar experiences, you read a story, you watch a webinar, you watch a video, you talk to somebody and they explain you don't have to respond, you don't have to resonate with it necessarily, but you can read and know that you're not the only one that's going through it, and has been through it. And I find that that's really important as well, which is why I write about, you know, my history, my experiences. I publish them because I hope and I know that it helps other people. At least just reading it, might be random people all over the world. But if someone's read it and they found it useful, then that's job done.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and thankfully, people like yourself and other sort of company and organisations, should I say, have raised, you know, wellness is now a subject matter which isn't, you know, a bit of a, you know, it's not something that can't be talked about anymore. You know, people can talk about it, which is good.
Yeah.
And there are more companies now. You know, there's a company in education called Bounce. I don't know if you've heard of them. You know, they're talking
Yes.
about well-being as well. So I think all these things are gaining more traction, and then actually schools themselves fully understand that well-being is massively important for anyone to be able to educate themselves, grow, or in any factor. It's a very important thing to tackle and make sure it's being managed.
Yeah, I know Bob over at Bounce quite well. We've had a good few conversations very recently, actually, and they're doing some great things there as well. Again, you know, back into the data world, you know, where they're looking at the data there and how that, you know, they look at, you know, young individuals and how, because I think that's again another area that's overlooked as well. You know, clearly well-being, particularly this year for teachers, is such an important thing, but children as well, I also think that's overlooked as well, and will always have been. And I think that's a really important thing to include into the mix of it, all the data analytics and everything that we've talked about today, funnily enough. And yeah, it's so great to see that it's an important part of school life now as well.
Yeah, I agree. And again, you know, I think that probably brings it back round, like you say, to data, which is great, and I think it's a very important factor. You know, it's something that's quite important to me, and I know it's important to you for sure. So yeah, and so I'd like to make a big thank you for your time. I appreciate, you know, you've taken up some time now to talk to me, and it's been really, really good, really great information. And also, you know, you know where the direction and your vision of where you think the education market should be going is great as well, and inspiring. So
You're welcome.
thanks very much.
Thank you so much for having me.